and welcome back to the third and final installment of an album for every year of my life. Thank you so much in advance for watching all of these, and please continue to feel free and throw comments into the boxes, and feel free to try this on your own sometime. I really want to see more stuff revolving around music on YouTube rather than just music videos. I feel that there's such a big music community, and we really just are not talking enough about it. So we're going to take a look at my personal best albums from 2000 until 2009. When 2000 rolled around, it was really turning into a different time for music. It wasn't about going after the album of your favorite artist or band. It was really about how many songs you could possibly download, because technology was giving way for the MP3 era, which would lead to the whole controversy with Napster, later on to the birth of iTunes, and now nobody is really going out to get albums as much as people used to anymore because of all of this instantaneous gratification. But it also led to a big comeback in vinyl. A lot of people had started, who were real music appreciators, collecting vinyl instead of CDs. And to me personally, I'm glad to know that I was one of those few that still observed music as an art rather than just, the latest trend, and I continued to get albums from my favorite artists. I still listen to my CDs. I have a massive CD collection. I love going to a retail store or going online to get the latest album of one of my all-time favorite bands or others, and that's where we stand today, still strong in regards to what music is and what it represents. So, as far as 2000 goes, it was such a diverse time, but as far as a true, consistent, great listen from beginning to end, I give the best album of 2000 to Something Like Human by Fuel. Fuel, unfortunately, has dropped off the face of the earth, but has made a comeback and at least made themselves noticed every now and again. They just made an album this year with Puppet Strings, and there is a review in my channel. I will post a link to that review below, along with the phrase Helios. But Something Like Human is a fantastic album. It has their greatest single of all time next to Shimmer, which is Hemorrhage in My Hands, and some other great songs like Bad Day, Slow. It's a real great album. 2001 was a very interesting year for music because we saw the comeback of a band that everyone was waiting for a comeback from, and it was the third album from the band Weezer. It is called the Green Album in the world of Weezer cult, but it's also known as Weezer 2001. This is one of the greatest comeback albums for any artist. They started with their single Hash Pipe, and it moved on to An Island in the Sun, Knockdown, Drag Out. It was a great album. I just listened to it yesterday, as a matter of fact, so I'm so glad that they came back. They may not have been as strong since, but they have made numerous albums since the Green Album, and it's really good to have Weezer back. Hopefully they'll be back with another album real soon. 2002, I like to call the Attack of the Clones. Not only was it the year that Star Wars Episode II Attack of the Clones came out in theaters, but that was when 4 specific bands came out that actually all sounded the same. You had the Vines, you had the Hives, you had the Strokes, but you also had the White Stripes. This album, White Blood Cells, with that amazing music video of Fell in Love with a Girl, pretty much put them on the top of the charts. Jack and Meg White, really a true pioneer, yet their music is really the classic sound of early stages of hard rock like the Kinks and the Ramones and whatnot, and it's got a real 60s feel to it, which I really, really like. And you have to thank the White Stripes for Elephant, their following album, because it gave us Seven Nation Army, and that little chorus line is heard at every major sporting event, no matter what. It's so funny how that song is at every single sporting event, and nobody in that crowd, or maybe a select few, know that that song actually came from the White Stripes. But White Blood Cells really began it all, and even though they are no longer around, the White Stripes are still one of the best bands of the early 2000s. 2003, another retro sound, and I give it to the best album, Permission to Land by The Darkness. The Darkness is classic and arena rock in a box. If you listen to every single one of these songs, especially their famous single, I Believe in a Thing Called Love, but if you hear Growing on Me, Black Shuck, Friday Night, Stuck in a Rut, you hear bands like U2, The Rolling Stones, Aerosmith, Boston, Led Zeppelin. You hear everything that classic rock is about. They've made 2 albums since this one, and I'm so glad that they continue to make music, because each and every album that The Darkness creates is a real great rock and roll experience, and Permission to Land, like the White Stripes, this is what started it all for them. 2004, another classic sound. We go back to the years of neo-new wave. Everybody was listening to bands like Franz Ferdinand, and even though a band like Maroon 5 was there, 2004 gave birth to Brandon Flowers and the Killers with Hot Fuss. This sounds like old 80s new wave. Mostly The Cure, and New Order to me, but the Killers are one of the hottest names in rock music today. Hot Fuss is an incredible album from beginning to end. Somebody told me Mr. Brightside, On Top, Smile Like You Mean It. The Killers are truthfully one of the greatest bands to come out of the first decade of the new millennium. If you have never heard The Killers, listen to Hot Fuss. Listen to their newest album, Battleborn. They are an incredible band, and I'm really excited for their newest installment, whenever that may come. 2005, the band came out in 2000, but they came out with their 3rd album in 10,000 Fists, and that is Disturbed with their 3rd album. Disturbed made her 2nd album, Believe. It didn't do as well as The Sickness, but when 10,000 Fists came out, Disturbed just came back. Disturbed manages to stay strong after over 10 years of music, and I'm really hoping that they make a new album soon, because Disturbed is just a metal explosion. It's such a great band to listen to. 2006, we go to a very interesting album. We go to the CD The Beatles Love. Why is this so interesting? It's not original material, that is true. But what's so interesting is the composition of this album. It is the soundtrack of the Las Vegas Cirque du Soleil show, originally written by George Harrison. After he passed away, Ringo Starr and Paul McCartney made sure that this play was created, and with this amazing Cirque du Soleil show, you get an amazing blend of Beatles songs from the beginning to the end of their careers. And it's such an interesting way to listen to the Beatles. It's like you're listening to them for the very first time, and that's what makes the Beatles. Every single time you listened to a new Beatles album, it's a completely different sound, like you were listening to them for the first time, and the Beatles Love soundtrack just truly encompasses the career of the Beatles and their music. 2007, I give it to a metal classic band, and that is Megadeth. The album United Abominations was probably the most interesting album to me since their album Rust in Peace, and it's probably because of the message that they send. It's such a political sound. It's all about what's going on in governments here and around the world. And it's so interesting that it's a metal band that's doing something like this, and it's crazy how criticized metal is. If you just sit down and listen to the lyrics, you will hear some powerful stuff. United Abominations is very powerful stuff. It's real stuff. It's not about sacrificing goats in your basement. This is about corruption in government and how we need to make a change, how society is enveloped in all of this controversy and conspiracy, and this is what Dave Mustaine has been about ever since he created Megadeth in the early 1980s. 2008, I give it to probably the best band from the first decade of the 2000s, and that, of course, was Coldplay with their 4th album, Viva La Vida. There is nothing more that I can say about this album except listen to it. It is a beautiful journey, amazing songs, unlike what you had heard in their first 3 albums. The greatest part about this is that they made a sequel piece to their album in Prospects March. It's an EP, remixes of songs from the original Viva La Vida album, but as well as some other ones that you don't actually get in the album itself. It recently was made as a combination album, so you have the whole thing in one album, but Coldplay is truly an original band. No one out there sounds like them. I doubt anyone ever will sound like them when Coldplay is long gone, but Viva La Vida is truly their greatest masterpiece, and I highly recommend you listen to them, especially if you haven't heard them before. In 2009, which is the last album of the decade, I give it to probably one of the lighter-hearted albums, and it's Ocean Eyes by Owl City. I never thought that I would like something so soft. That's one of the few things that I can say about Owl City, but Adam Young is just a poet. He just makes these beautiful, simple songs. These rhymes that he has are like reading a Dr. Seuss novel, I kid you not. He has made numerous albums after Ocean Eyes. It really has put him on the map. It's just an amazing symphony of sound and lyrics. It's beautiful, and I would recommend Owl City to anybody who just wants to hear a guy who loves making music make his music for you. I don't know when there will be another album, but I'm hoping it will be soon. There are rumors that he's just going to be making a bunch of EP singles, which I don't understand why, but I'm hoping that there is an album of all those together. His songs have been featured in soundtracks over the past couple of years. When Can I See You Again? In Wreck-It Ralph. Living It Up in Smurfs 2. And Shine Your Way in The Croods. So he's getting around. He's doing a good job. So that's it, guys. Now, I don't have a video for 2010, and unfortunately the best album of 2011 was cut off due to some copyright issue. I don't know whenever I decide to recreate that video so it can't have its sound again, but I gave the best album of 2010 to the Tron Legacy soundtrack. I will post my review of the soundtrack in the box below, and 2011 I gave it to Adele's 21. There's really nothing else that I can say about that, but for 2012 and 2013, and hopefully 2014 in a couple of months, I will be posting a link for all those videos in the box below, so go check them out. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I appreciate you taking your time to listen to all this. I'd love to see if you guys want to make this on your own, so take care and actions speak louder than words.